My ex-mother-in-law kept taking my kids from daycare like she owned them. CPS got involved. Hi, I'm Sarah. After my divorce from Trevor last year, I thought the worst was finally behind me. We'd hammered out a fair custody agreement for our 6-year-old twins, Lily and Mason, and I'd started rebuilding my life from scratch. That was until his mother, Patricia, decided our legally binding agreement was more like a suggestion she could ignore whenever she pleased. Miss Hayes, this is Angela from Little Explorers Learning Center. Could you possibly come in tomorrow morning around 8? There's a matter we need to address, came the voice through my phone as I was meal prepping chicken and rice for the week ahead. My stomach dropped instantly. Is everything all right with the twins? Did something happen? I gripped the edge of my Formica countertop, my knuckles going white. The children are perfectly fine, don't worry. It's just, well, there's been some confusion regarding our pickup authorization protocols that we really need to clear up. Confusion? My voice came out sharper than I intended. What kind of confusion? The only people authorized to collect my children are myself and their father on his designated custody days. Angela's tone shifted, becoming more cautious. That's precisely what we need to discuss in person, Miss Hayes. Just tell me now what's going on. There was a pause that lasted 3 seconds too long. Mrs. Patterson, your former mother-in-law, has been picking up Lily and Mason several times recently. Multiple times, actually. The wooden spoon I'd been holding clattered against the tile floor, spattering marinara sauce across my sneakers. Excuse me? Patricia has been taking my children without asking me? She informed our staff that she had your full authorization. She was very convincing and seemed to know all the right details about the children's routines. I could barely breathe. She's not on the authorization list. You can't just hand over children to anyone who walks in and sounds confident. Do you understand how serious this is? Miss Hayes, please, this is exactly why we need to meet face-to-face. There are protocols we need to review, and I'll be there at 8 sharp. I cut her off, already reaching for my phone to call my best friend. Vanessa arrived at my apartment 18 minutes after I texted her 911, finding me pacing circles around my coffee table, still wearing my sauce-stained sneakers. She's been taking them behind my back, V. Who knows where she's been bringing them or what poison she's been feeding them about me? Vanessa caught my shoulders, forcing me to stop moving. Okay, slow down, take a breath, start from the beginning and tell me everything. Patricia's been picking up Lily and Mason from daycare without my knowledge multiple times. Apparently, the center just called me. Wait, how is that even possible? Isn't there supposed to be a list of approved people? I thought daycares were strict about that stuff. That's what I thought too. I threw my hands up. But according to Angela, Patricia was convincing, whatever the hell that means. Like being convincing is somehow equivalent to legal authorization. Vanessa's eyes narrowed in that way they did when she was getting angry on my behalf. That sounds like the daycare screwed up massively. What did Trevor say when you called him? I haven't called him yet. I wanted to get all the facts straight first before I... Sarah, no. Call him right now. Put it on speaker. I want to hear what excuse he comes up with. My hands shook slightly as I pulled up Trevor's contact and hit the call button. He answered on the 5th ring, sounding distracted. Hey Sarah, what's up? I'm literally about to walk into a meeting, so make it quick. Did you know your mother has been picking up the twins from daycare? Yeah, sometimes she helps out when my schedule gets crazy. Why? Helps out? My voice went up an octave. Trevor, she's not on the approved pickup list, and she's been doing this on my custody days, not yours. Mom said you knew about it, that you two had worked something out earlier this month. Are you actually kidding me right now? When have your mother and I ever worked anything out? The same woman who called me a negligent parent during our custody hearing. Look, she's just trying to spend time with her grandkids. What's the big deal here? The big deal is she's taking our children without my knowledge or permission. That's literally kidnapping. Don't be so dramatic, Sarah. She's their grandmother, for crying out loud. Vanessa made a furious gesture at the phone, and I had to resist the urge to throw it across the room. Your custody agreement doesn't extend to your mother, Trevor. We need to discuss this tomorrow at the daycare, 8 a.m. sharp. Be there. I can't. I've got an early meeting with the Henderson account, and it's been on the books for... Cancel it. This is about our children's safety. A heavy sigh came through the speaker. Fine, I'll be there. After I hung up, Vanessa shook her head slowly. He knew the whole time she was doing this. No, this has Patricia's fingerprints all over it. She's always thought she knew better than me about raising my own kids. Trevor's just too spineless to tell her no. That night, I called my older sister, Monica, who worked as a family advocate for the county. After hearing the whole story, her voice went serious in a way that made my chest tighten. Sarah, this is really serious. You need to document absolutely everything. Names, dates, times, what was said. We need to establish a clear pattern of unauthorized access. So this is something that could actually involve protective services? If someone is repeatedly removing children from a licensed childcare facility without proper parental authorization, absolutely. This falls squarely under potential endangerment, especially if there's deception involved. I barely slept that night, tossing and turning while worst-case scenarios played through my mind. The next morning, I arrived at Little Explorers 25 minutes early, armed with a spiral notebook and my phone's voice recorder already running in my pocket. Trevor was already there, leaning against the brick wall outside, looking annoyed in his navy suit and red power tie. "This better be quick," he muttered as I approached. "Our children's safety isn't something we rush through," I replied coolly as Angela opened the door and led us toward the director's office. Director Karen Foster was waiting behind her desk, looking uncomfortable. She was a petite woman in her 50s, with reading glasses hanging on a chain around her neck. "Thank you both for coming in. I understand there's been some confusion regarding pickup authorizations for Lily and Mason Hayes Patterson." "There's no confusion," I stated firmly, sitting down and pulling out my notebook. "Their father and I are the only authorized individuals to collect them. Period. Yet somehow Patricia Patterson has been picking them up. I'd like to know exactly how many times this has happened and who in your organization authorized it." Karen shifted in her chair, not quite meeting my eyes. "According to our records, Mrs. Patterson has collected the twins 8 times over the past 6 weeks. 8 times? I felt the blood drain from my face. 8 separate occasions. And who signed off on these pickups?" Trevor demanded, leaning forward. Karen slid a manila folder across the desk. "We have signed authorization forms on file." I flipped through them, my hands starting to shake. "These are forgeries. This is not my signature. Look at this. The loops are all wrong. The slant is different." "What?" Trevor grabbed the papers from my hands. "These don't look like my signature either. The T is completely different from how I write it." "Miss Foster," I said, my voice trembling with barely controlled anger, "are you telling me that your staff never thought to verify these signatures? Never called to confirm? Nothing?" Karen cleared her throat nervously. "Mrs. Patterson was quite persuasive. She knew specific details about the children's routines, their favorite snacks. She even knew about Mason's stuffed dinosaur that he brings for nap time. She explained that she was helping you both during your demanding work schedules, and that... So you just took her word for it?" My voice rose despite my efforts to stay calm. "Do you have any idea what you've done? You've been complicit in potentially endangering my children. Do you understand the legal implications of that? Now, Miss Hayes, that's a very serious accusation." "Yes, it is a serious accusation, and I've already spoken with my sister who works in family advocacy about this exact situation." Trevor was staring at the forged forms, his face pale. "Mom, she couldn't have..." Before anyone could respond, my phone buzzed. It was Vanessa. "You need to hear this," she said the moment I answered. "I just got off the phone with my friend Rachel who works at Riverside Elementary. Patricia tried to register the twins there for next fall." "She what?" I practically shouted, putting the phone on speaker. "Sorry, say that again for everyone to hear." Patricia Patterson came into Riverside Elementary last week trying to register Lily and Mason for first grade next fall. She claimed she had educational guardianship. My heart was pounding so hard I could hear it in my ears. Rachel's smart. She requested documentation proving the guardianship. Patricia couldn't provide anything, so they denied the registration. But here's the kicker. Patricia told them that you were an unfit mother and that she was in the process of getting custody. Trevor's face went from pale to gray. That's not possible. That can't be right. I turned to face him, my whole body shaking. Still think I'm being dramatic? Mom wouldn't lie to me about something like this, he said, but his voice had lost its certainty. Really? Let's call her right now and ask her ourselves, shall we? I pulled up Patricia's number with trembling fingers and hit the call button, putting it on speaker. She answered on the second ring. Sarah. Her voice had that syrupy, sweet quality that always made my skin crawl. What an unexpected surprise. Patricia, you're on speaker with Trevor, myself, and Karen Foster, the director of Little Explorers. Would you care to explain why you've been picking up my children without authorization? Our grandchildren, you mean? I was simply helping out, like any good grandmother would. Trevor knows I've been spending quality time with them. Trevor's jaw tightened. Mom, you told me Sarah knew about this. You said you two had arranged it together. A slight pause. Well, I assumed she'd be grateful for the assistance. Besides, the children absolutely adore spending time with me. Lily even told me how much she prefers my house to Sarah's cramped apartment. That's a lie, I said through gritted teeth. And did you also assume I'd be grateful when you tried to register them at a different elementary school without telling either parent? Dead silence on the other end. Mom, Trevor's voice was sharp now, did you try to register my children at Riverside Elementary? I was merely exploring educational options. That school has a significantly superior gifted and talented program. The children are quite bright, you know, though they'd never reach their potential in a mediocre public school district. Without discussing it with either parent, Karen interjected, looking genuinely alarmed. Now, to you, Patricia snapped, her sweet tone evaporating. Trevor, we should discuss this privately. This woman is clearly trying to turn you against me. No, Mom, we're discussing it right now. Did you or did you not attempt to register my children at a school without telling me or Sarah? I was trying to secure their future. Someone has to think about their education, since their mother is too busy working her little retail job to properly focus on their development. I took a deep breath, forcing myself to stay calm. And the forged authorization forms at the daycare? Forged? I simply signed the forms so the staff wouldn't give me a hard time. It's not like I'm a stranger. I'm their grandmother. Trevor stood up abruptly. Mom, those forms require a parent's signature. That's not a technicality. That's the law. Oh, please. This is all being blown completely out of proportion. Sarah has always been jealous of my relationship with the children. I'm jealous? I couldn't help the bitter laugh that escaped. You've been taking my children behind my back, forging legal documents and trying to enroll them in school without permission? This isn't about jealousy, Patricia. This is about you completely overstepping every possible boundary. Those children need structure and proper guidance. You let them run wild, dress them in cheap clothes, feed them processed food. That's enough, Mom, Trevor cut her off. This conversation is over. Trevor, you can't possibly be siding with... He hung up. The silence in Karen's office was deafening. Trevor slumped back in his chair, running both hands through his hair. I need a full accounting of every time she picked them up. Dates, times, who she spoke with, everything. And I need it in writing within 24 hours. Of course, I'll have my assistant compile everything immediately. Furthermore, Patricia Patterson is to be permanently removed from any and all pickup lists, not just for my children, but for the entire facility. She's demonstrated she cannot be trusted. Karen nodded quickly. Absolutely. I'll make sure all staff are notified immediately. And we need to discuss your facility's security protocols, because this should never have happened in the first place. Trevor cleared his throat. Sarah, I had no idea she was doing all this. I swear I thought you two had worked something out. Your mother has been manipulating both of us, Trevor. The question is, what are we going to do about it? 3 days later, I sat in Monica's office, surrounded by printed emails, text message screenshots, and timeline documents spread across her conference table. You've built a really solid case here, Monica said, reviewing my evidence with a yellow highlighter. Unauthorized pickups, attempted school registration, forged documents, and now these text messages where she's telling the twins not to mention certain things to you. Those messages terrified me, I admitted, pointing to the printouts. What is she telling my 6-year-olds that needs to be kept secret from their own mother? Monica's expression darkened. Nothing good, that's for certain. I never thought it would come to this, Trevor said, quietly from his seat across the table. His initial defensiveness had completely crumbled after I'd shown him the full extent of his mother's deceptions. My own mom? She's been manipulating you your entire life, Trevor, I said, not unkindly. You just normalized it because it's all you've ever known. Monica pulled out another document. Has she always been this controlling with you, Trevor? He nodded slowly, staring at his hands. My whole life, yeah. When I was in 3rd grade, she'd call my teachers every week to question their lesson plans. In high school, she tried to get my basketball coach fired because I wasn't getting enough playing time. During college, she'd email my professors about grades she thought were unfair. I guess I thought that was normal mom behavior. Looking back now, it's pretty messed up. That explains everything, I said. She never stopped parenting you, so why would she stop trying to parent our children? In her mind, she has every right to make decisions for them. I enabled all of this, Trevor said, his voice breaking slightly. Sarah, I'm sorry. I really am. I thought she was just being a helpful grandmother. I didn't see the manipulation. Monica leaned forward. Trevor, I need you to understand something. Tomorrow, when we meet with Patricia, you and Sarah need to present a completely united front. She needs to see that both parents are firmly opposed to her actions, or she'll just try to drive a wedge between you again. I understand. Whatever Sarah needs, I'm on board. The next day, Patricia arrived in Monica's office looking confident and polished in an expensive cream-colored pantsuit, her blonde hair perfectly styled. Her smile faltered immediately when she saw Trevor sitting next to me on the leather couch. What's this about, Trevor? Why didn't you tell me you'd be here? Her voice had an edge of panic. Please sit down, Mrs. Patterson, directed, gesturing to the chair across from us. I'm Monica Chen, family advocate with the county. We're here to discuss your unauthorized interactions with Lily and Mason Hayes Patterson. Unauthorized? I'm their grandmother. I have every right to see them. Grandparent status doesn't grant you legal authority to remove children from licensed childcare without explicit parental permission, nor does it give you the right to attempt school registration or forge authorization documents. This is ridiculous. She turned to Trevor. Are you really going to sit there and let them treat me this way? Trevor leaned forward, his jaw set. Mom, you lied to me. You told me Sarah knew you were picking up the kids. You made me think you two had worked everything out. I was trying to help. Those children need proper structure and guidance that they're not getting. Those children have parents, I interrupted, keeping my voice level. Parents who make decisions about their care, their education, and their daily lives. Parents, Patricia scoffed. You work full-time at Target while they're stuck in that substandard daycare, and Trevor is so busy with his new girlfriend that he barely has time for proper parenting.
Mrs. Patterson, Monica interjected sharply, can you explain these text messages we've obtained where you specifically instructed the children not to tell their parents about what happens during your time with them? She pulled out printed screenshots and slid them across the table. Patricia's face flushed red as she scanned them. That's being taken completely out of context. I simply wanted special grandmother moments to remain special, not interrogated about every little detail. Special how? I demanded, my patience wearing thin. Nothing inappropriate, for heaven's sake. I simply don't approve of certain aspects of their upbringing and felt it was necessary to provide some corrective guidance. Like what, specifically? Monica pressed, pen poised over her notepad. Patricia lifted her chin. For instance, Sarah allows them to address adults by their first names. It's disrespectful and speaks to a general lack of proper discipline in her household. So you've been actively undermining my parenting decisions behind my back. Someone needs to instill proper values in those children. Trevor stood up suddenly, his chair scraping loudly against the floor. Stop it, Mom. Just stop. You've crossed so many lines, I don't even know where to begin. Trevor, sweetheart, I'm only trying to help. By forging our signatures, by trying to change their school without telling us, by teaching them to keep secrets from their own parents, his voice was rising. That's not helping, that's sabotage. This is all her fault, isn't it? Patricia's finger shot out, pointing directly at me. She's turned you against your own mother. She's always been jealous of our relationship. No, Mom. Trevor's voice was cold now. You did this to yourself. Every single bit of it. Patricia's face contorted with rage, her carefully maintained composure shattering. You ungrateful, spineless, you always were weak, just like your father. Mrs. Patterson, Monica cut in sharply, her professional tone like ice. Control yourself. This outburst is only confirming our concerns about your judgment and emotional stability. I don't have to sit here and listen to this. I have rights as a grandparent. There are laws. Actually, I said calmly, pulling out another document Monica had prepared, in this state, grandparents have no inherent visitation rights unless specifically granted by the court, and given your recent behavior, I'd say that's highly unlikely. Patricia's eyes widened, then narrowed to slits. We'll see about that. I'll take you to court. I'll prove to a judge that you're an unfit mother who's using my grandchildren as pawns in some vindictive game. Please do. I'd love to see you explain the forged documents and secret keeping to a family court judge. Monica stood, signaling the meeting was over. I strongly suggest you consult with a family law attorney before taking any further action. In the meantime, you are not to have any contact with Lily and Mason without explicit written permission from both parents. Is that understood? Patricia gathered her designer purse and stood, her whole body rigid with fury. You'll regret this, Sarah. Both of you will. After she left, Trevor collapsed back onto the couch, his head in his hands. I can't believe that's my mother. I can't believe I didn't see this sooner. She's had a lifetime to perfect manipulating you, I said quietly. Don't beat yourself up too much. Monica began gathering documents. Sarah, I need to be honest with you. She's going to make good on her threat to file for grandparent visitation. Are you prepared for that? More than she thinks. 2 weeks later, we gathered in family court. The fluorescent lights were harsh overhead. Patricia had indeed filed an emergency petition for grandparent visitation rights, claiming she had an established and loving relationship with the twins that was being cruelly cut off from them. Are you ready for this? My lawyer Christine asked as we waited in the hallway outside the courtroom. She was a sharp woman in her 40s who specialized in family law and custody disputes. More than ready, I replied, watching Patricia and her attorney conferring quietly across the corridor. She looked immaculate as always, playing the role of the wronged grandmother perfectly. Inside the courtroom, Patricia's attorney painted a picture of her as a devoted grandmother being cruelly cut off from her grandchildren. He was a silver-haired man in an expensive suit who spoke in dramatic, sweeping terms. Your Honor, Mrs. Patricia Patterson has been an active and loving presence in these children's lives since the moment they were born, he argued, gesturing emphatically. She attended their births, was there for every holiday, every birthday, every milestone. To suddenly and completely deny her access is not only cruel, it's detrimental to the children's emotional well-being. When it was our turn, Christine methodically laid out the evidence like building blocks, each piece supporting the next. Forged authorization forms, attempted school registration without parental knowledge, text messages instructing children to keep secrets, the CPS investigation findings, medical records showing Patricia had taken Mason to a doctor's appointment without informing either parent. Your Honor, Christine concluded, this case isn't about denying a grandmother access to her grandchildren. It's about establishing necessary boundaries with someone who has repeatedly demonstrated she doesn't respect parental authority, legal procedures, or the children's best interests. The judge, a stern-looking woman in her 60s named Judge Morrison, turned to Trevor. Mr. Patterson, I see you've submitted a statement supporting the mother's position, despite this being your own mother we're discussing. That's unusual. Can you explain your reasoning? Trevor stood, clearing his throat nervously. Your Honor, I initially defended my mother's actions because I believed she was acting in good faith, trying to help. However, the evidence shows she deliberately misled me, forged legal documents, and actively worked to undermine the co-parenting arrangement Miss Hayes and I established. While I love my mother, her behavior has been inappropriate and has potentially put our children at risk. I fully support supervised visitation at most, if any at all. Patricia let out a loud gasp. Trevor, how can you? Judge Morrison's gavel came down hard. Mrs. Patterson, you will remain silent unless asked a direct question. The judge turned to me. Miss Hayes, what outcome are you seeking here today? I stood carefully, measuring my words. Your Honor, I'm not trying to permanently destroy my children's relationship with their grandmother. However, I believe supervised visitation is absolutely necessary until Mrs. Patterson can demonstrate that she understands and respects parental authority and legal boundaries. The safety of my children has to come first. Judge Morrison spent several minutes reviewing the submitted evidence, her expression growing increasingly severe. Finally, she looked up, removing her reading glasses. Mrs. Patterson, I find your actions deeply troubling. The evidence presented today paints a picture of someone who believes they have authority they simply do not possess. Mrs. Patterson's attorney stood. If I may, you may not. Judge Morrison's voice was firm. Sit down. She continued. Unauthorized removal of children from a licensed daycare facility not once, but 8 separate times, forged parental signatures on legal documents, attempted school registration without parental knowledge or consent, text messages instructing children to keep secrets from their parents. These are not the actions of a loving grandmother who simply wants to spend time with her grandchildren. These are the actions of someone who fundamentally does not respect the legal rights of the children's parents or the established custody arrangement. Judge Morrison looked directly at Patricia. Mrs. Patterson, do you understand the seriousness of forging someone's signature on a legal document? Your Honor, I was just trying to answer the question. Do you understand that forging signatures is illegal? Patricia's lips pressed into a thin line. Yes. And do you understand why instructing children to keep secrets from their parents is problematic? I wasn't telling them to keep secrets, I was just… Mrs. Patterson, Judge Morrison's voice sharpened. I've read the text messages. Direct quote. Don't tell mommy or daddy about our special talks. It's just between us. That is textbook grooming language, whether you intended it that way or not. The courtroom went completely silent. Trevor's face had gone pale beside me. Your Honor, Mrs. Patterson's attorney stood again. My client had no malicious intent.
Intent is irrelevant when the actions themselves are this egregious, Judge Morrison interrupted. The road to harm is paved with good intentions. She shuffled the papers in front of her before delivering her ruling. Therefore, the court denies your petition for grandparent visitation rights at this time. Furthermore, a temporary restraining order is granted, requiring you to maintain a distance of 100 yards from the children's daycare facility, Miss Hayes's residence, and the children's school. "This is outrageous!" Patricia burst out, standing up. "You can't keep me from my own grandchildren." Judge Morrison's gavel cracked down like a gunshot. "Mrs. Patterson, your reaction right now is only reinforcing this court's concerns about your judgment and emotional regulation. Sit down immediately, or I will hold you in contempt." Patricia's attorney pulled her back into her seat, whispering urgently. Judge Morrison continued, "After 6 months, you may petition the court again, provided you complete a parenting boundaries education course and provide documentation of regular therapy sessions addressing control and boundary issues. The court also recommends a psychological evaluation before any future visitation is considered." "A psychological evaluation?" Patricia's voice was shrill. "I'm not crazy." "No one said you were, Mrs. Patterson, but your actions demonstrate a concerning lack of judgment that needs to be addressed before you can safely interact with minor children." Outside the courtroom, Patricia confronted us one final time, her attorney trying unsuccessfully to pull her away. "This isn't over, Sarah," she hissed, her perfectly applied makeup streaking with angry tears. "Those are my grandchildren. Blood means something." "No, Patricia, they're my children," I said firmly, "and if you ever want to be part of their lives again, you need to get the help the court ordered and learn to respect that fundamental fact." "Trevor, you can't possibly support this. I'm your mother." Trevor sighed deeply, looking exhausted. "Mom, you did this to yourself. Every single consequence you're facing right now is the direct result of your own choices. Get the help Judge Morrison ordered, and maybe we can work toward rebuilding trust, but that's going to take time and real change. You'll both regret this," she spat, but her attorney finally managed to lead her away down the courthouse corridor. Christine put a hand on my shoulder. "You did the right thing. This was never going to end until someone set firm boundaries." Later that evening, after I'd put Lily and Mason to bed with extra long bedtime stories and cuddles, Vanessa came over with celebratory takeout and a bottle of wine. "How does victory taste?" she asked, raising her glass in a toast as we settled onto my second-hand couch. "Honestly, bittersweet," I admitted, swirling the wine in my glass. "I'm relieved that the kids are safe and that boundaries are finally enforced, but I'm sad that it came to this. They essentially don't have a grandmother now." "That was her choice, not yours," Vanessa pointed out firmly. "You gave her every opportunity to do the right thing. She chose manipulation and deception instead." "I know, I keep thinking about Lily asking why Grandma Patricia doesn't come around anymore. How do you explain this to a 6-year-old? You tell her the age-appropriate truth, that sometimes grown-ups need to learn better ways to treat people, and Grandma is working on that." My phone buzzed with a text from Monica. "Little Explorers is on probation, pending complete overhaul of security procedures. Director Foster may lose her license." "Good," Vanessa said when I showed her. "Actions have consequences. She put your kids at risk." "And Trevor? How's he handling everything?" "Better than I expected, actually," I said, surprising myself. "We're communicating more effectively now than we did in the last 2 years of our marriage. It's like he finally woke up and realized his mother had been pulling strings his entire life." "Do you think Patricia will ever actually change?" I shrugged, taking a sip of wine. "Honestly, I doubt it. People like that rarely do. But that's not my problem anymore. My only concern is protecting Lily and Mason and giving them the most stable, healthy childhood I can." Vanessa raised her glass again. "To drawing boundaries and sticking to them." "To boundaries," I echoed. Over the next few weeks, life slowly returned to a new normal. Little Explorers implemented a biometric sign-in system and mandatory ID checks for any pickup. Trevor and I established a better co-parenting rhythm, actually communicating about decisions instead of just trading the kids like packages. Monica kept me updated on Patricia's progress, or lack thereof. She'd enrolled in the court-mandated course, but had been asked to leave after arguing with the instructor about modern parenting being too permissive. The psychological evaluation was pending, scheduled for next month. Trevor and I met for coffee one Saturday while the kids were at a birthday party. He looked tired, but more settled than I'd seen him in years. I started seeing a therapist, he told me, trying to work through some of the control and manipulation patterns I grew up with. That's really good, Trevor. I'm proud of you. I'm sorry it took all this for me to see it. I should have believed you from the beginning. You were conditioned not to, I said gently. That's what makes it manipulation. It's designed to be invisible. He stirred his coffee absently. She called me last night. 3 times, left voicemails saying I've broken her heart, that she doesn't understand what she did wrong. What did you say? Nothing. I didn't call back. My therapist says I need to maintain boundaries until she shows real change, not just performative compliance. That's wise. That night, after Lily and Mason were asleep, I stood in their bedroom doorway, watching their peaceful faces in the glow of their nightlight. Lily was clutching her stuffed bunny, and Mason had somehow managed to sleep half upside down as usual. The fight had been exhausting, frightening, and absolutely necessary. Some people mistake kindness for weakness and boundaries for cruelty. Patricia had learned the hard way that there were lines no one was allowed to cross, not even family, not even grandparents. My children were safe. That was all that mattered. As I closed their door softly and headed to my own room, I felt something I hadn't felt in months. Peace. Real, genuine peace. Tomorrow would bring new challenges, it always did, but tonight my children were safe and the boundaries were finally set. Sometimes the hardest battles we fight are with the people who are supposed to love us most, but protecting your children isn't just the right choice, it's the only choice. Have you ever had to stand up against family for what's right? Share your story in the comments below.